it's pretty clear. In light of the fact that you do have the photographs, I think it was a miscommunication between you and I. I was asking if you had the original photographs. You thought I was asking for new photographs.
Yes.
Oh, okay. In light of the fact that you do have the existing photographs, I would make the motion that we order the cleanup at 810 North Pearl Street.
I would second that.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the property cleanup at 810 North Pearl Street, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Again, we, I think, have gone the extra mile in giving them the opportunity to take care of this issue themselves, and they refuse to do it still. 207 West Miami.
207 West Miami has been, the abatement has been taken care of. It's done.
Okay. Very good.
Now, I have got in my minutes, my notes, and perhaps I'm wrong, 423 Tangy Street was the gentleman here, Levi Thompson, who was representing his mother, had the dead tree that he said he'd cut down 2 or 3 years ago that was still laying there. You had given him the opportunity, Your Honor, if he would carry it to the alley and contact Street Commissioner Dan, that it would get picked up. Was that supposed to be on for today, or was that for 2 weeks?
I didn't think there was a time assessed for it, but I could very well be mistaken.
Thompson was to make arrangements with the street department to get the wood pile picked up without a definite timeline.
Okay, I drove past there just prior to this meeting, and there has been no movement whatsoever on that.
Dan, did he speak to you during last week's meeting?
I gave him the card following your call, and to my understanding, he had 2 weeks. I may do whatever it takes to rectify that.
Okay, that's 423 Tangy Street. I would make the motion that we allow another 1 week to give him the opportunity to get the wood moved out to the alley. I witnessed the conversation between Superintendent of Public Works and the individual myself. If he fails to capitalize on the opportunity to remove this at no cost to him, a little bit of sweat equity, then we can't help that. So
Okay.
I make the motion that we allow 1 more week. Please make an effort to contact him personally, either with a door hanger, with a certified letter, some way to let him know that we will take action next week if it's not cleaned up.
All right.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, thank you. Do you have anything else under old business?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
Under new business, we have a request. I have a request in my packet from Tom Pasquale regarding a fine assessment. Mr. Pasquale, can you come up to the front, please? Have a seat, and please state your name to the microphone, name and address.
Tom Pasquale, 4747 Potawatomi.
Okay, are you picking that up okay, Chelsea? Okay. It's 4747 Potawatomi?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Tom. You know why you're here. Obviously, you responded after we ordered your property cleanup at 2005 North Street. I appreciate you being here today, and I understand the dilemma that we're facing here in that we have to deal with 2005 North Street and our method of cleaning it up. I understand that you've had some confusion in the method that you received notice, and in fact you're saying that you did not receive notice until you got the bill. I do know that we have made every attempt to contact you regarding this matter. As a matter of fact, we have a file that goes back. It seems to be a recurring theme with that property. November 29th of this year, we had an issue involving, let's see if I can find the details of it, but it was a violation back in November. Was a broken sofa, carpet, trash, soda bottles, and other debris all around the backyard. And then it seems to be, again, the notice was served on that one at 2005 North Street. And
I don't live there.
I understand. The notice was served at 2005 North Street, and that issue was cleaned up. Apparently somebody, whoever received notice at 2005 North Street, it was actually addressed to you at 2005 North Street.
I think it just happened to be a coincidence. I drove by and saw the stuff, and I put dollar stickers on everything.
Okay, and that was back in November. And then again, this year, the initial contact regarding the latest violation was made on February 20th with a door sticker. And then again on February 21st, we mailed a letter, no action was taken. Then we mailed another letter on March 1st and didn't hear back from anybody. So there was another 3 attempts. And what we're trying to do is obviously to make sure that we're more proactive in cleaning up different areas of town. Now in your letter, you're appealing the charges that were assessed based on Article 6, Paragraph A, Subset 3 of the Common Council Ordinance. I'm not sure which ordinance you're referring to because I have the ordinance 2008-09 in my hand, and it makes no reference whatsoever to.
This is the ordinance that George gave me,
Okay, can I see that?
and it's highlighted the part that I'm talking about. It talks about how
Okay,
I have grounds for appeal.
may I see that? Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, check the heading on that if you would please, to see what ordinance number it is.
This, it's a little confusing. This says ordinance 2011-09, but that number is stricken. And then it refers to ordinance 2013 blank with nothing.
Under the ordinance description, what's the ordinance?
An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport amending ordinance 2008-08, declaring weeds to be a nuisance and providing for the removal of said weeds and paying costs of such removal. I think this deals with weeds.
That would be the wrong ordinance, Your Honor, you are correct.
Okay. Okay.
Well, to clarify why I'm here,
Uh-huh.
about 3 years ago, so I got a divorce,
Uh-huh.
and I had some problems where mail was sent out to the old house where I lived,
Uh-huh.
and never got the mail. Ended up in the trash or whatever. And so I went through this same problem 3 years ago, and they told me to go to the auditor's office, the courthouse.
Who told you that?
I think it might have been Tony Scagnoli. It was,
Okay.
and anyhow, he said that's how you solve it. You go to the auditor's office, the courthouse, get your address, change your mailing address on 2005 North Street, and that was how I took care of it. Now, I have been issued letters over the past 3 years, and then they have come to my post office box every single time. I have not had a problem, and every time I got a letter, I went and I fixed this problem myself. I cleaned it up myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, within the last, what'd you say, November or whatever? Now all of a sudden, since November, I'm not getting them to the post office box number for some reason, which I still haven't gotten an answer why they haven't come to the post office box, because every other time in the past, over the past 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
they have come to my post office box.
Okay.
So now all of a sudden they're not coming, and then I get all this, but for some reason, this letter saying that I need to clean it up didn't come, had trouble finding it. But miraculously, the $425 bill came to my post office box.
I can assure you that we don't have a motivation of making money off this. Everybody that appears,
Well,
we give them the
How can
opportunity.
the letter not make it to the post office box? but
Well,
the bill can?
you're implying that we're trying to make profit off this, and I promise you that is not the case. Everybody that appears at a Board of Works hearing is given the opportunity to clean up the project if they show up, if
And
we have a way to communicate with them.
And it's come to my post office box. I've had at least probably over the last 3 years, probably 4 or 5 letters ordering me to clean it up, and I've cleaned it up every time.
With all due respect, on November 29th, This went
Like
to
I said, there's been-
2005 North Street, and it was taken care of. So I think it's fair for us to assume that 2005 North Street is the right address. If we had success with the last one when we sent it there,
And like I said, I think it was just a coincidence. I happened to drive by and saw the stickers on there.
I understand, but
Or, mean,
I
put
would
stickers on.
I would hope that you could then understand how we would think that this is a legitimate address.
But
If we had success the last time, then why would we not expect success this time?
But I don't even understand how in November I didn't get
You did.
didn't get a letter to my post office box in November.
Let me ask something here. Do you ever go by your property? It's a rental. Do you go by it? Do you pick up the rent and
Yeah,
mail it to you?
I do.
You go by, if there's trash there, do you take any action on that?
I put stickers on anything that's in the alley.
Then how can this go on for weeks/months and you not know that it's a problem?
Well, there may have been 1 or 2 months where I didn't go through the alley. You know, I am a single father. I have custody of all 3 of my kids. I work midnight shift. When I get up and I have to take my kids to all their extracurricular activities, and I have months at a time where, yeah, it slips my mind that, oh, I need to drive through the alley over there. Because when I go collect rent, I don't go through the alley. I go through the front of the house.
I guess now, and I probably drive down the alley.
Yeah, I know. I understand that now.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I don't see that the discussion we're having is going to get us anywhere. So my suggestion would be, since we don't have legal counsel here, that we take this under advisement, and as soon as the attorney can take a look at it, give us his advice as to how we should proceed, and we should take his advice.
I think that's fair. We want to be fair with you. I promise you, we're not motivated by money. We would prefer everybody to take care of their own problems so that we don't have to. All it does is take away from other jobs that we have to do. But at the same time, when we get multiples of complaints on different properties, various properties throughout the year, but in particular this one, I mean, it keeps coming back. It's like a bad pin.
That's my other question. How do we know that all that trash is coming from that site? I mean, I realize some of it does, but how do we know all of it is, and that's just not a dump site for other people?
Well, yeah, I guess that's the risk of owning property. Somebody has to be there, the eyes and ears, to keep an eye on it. If you see somebody dumping property on there or dumping trash on there, let us know, because we'll issue citations for that. But in the meantime, we can't post a police officer in that alley to see who's going to dump trash in the backyard. But it seems to be a recurring theme that somebody there is apparently not educated. I would hope for your sake that you have...
I have spoken to every single one.
I would hope for your sake that you have secured a security deposit from those people, and I would think that you would have every right to exercise that security deposit and to keep the money, because we have a motion and a second on the table. I think that's fair. I think what we need to do is give the city attorney the opportunity to review this and to make sure that you have been provided due process, and that we did, in fact, notify you at the proper address. If there's a problem with that, I'm certainly willing to, I mean, if there's a legal standard that we didn't meet, we absolutely will not charge you for this. But if we've met the legal standard, knowing the history that this is an ongoing, recurring theme, then we need to recover our costs. We have an investment in this now. We don't get to dump at the dump for free. And, you know, it was something as easy as a drive down the alley and a few dollar stickers. You can have all those things removed. And, you know, as you're your own manager, I want to be absolutely fair with you, but I think it would be prudent of you to drive down that alley once a week. I know it's got to be horrible being a single father with kids in school and extracurricular activities, working midnights, but at the same time, it doesn't make our problem disappear, and it definitely detracts from the neighborhood. If I lived next to that, I'd be driving to your house. I wouldn't be going to the city. I would take care of it myself one way or another to say,
Well, if I knew who it was that was complaining all the time about it, I'd give him my cell phone number.
There again, it may be wise for you to walk the streets and give them your cell phone number and say, if you have a problem, please call me. But at some point in time, the owner has to take responsibility for the property and what takes place there. If it's easy enough to collect the rent, it should be easy enough to do a visual of the landscape and say, we have a problem here, folks. If you don't take care of it, we're going to assess another fee to you, because they're technically the ones who are littering the property. It's an illegal dump site no matter who does it. If they dump it in the backyard, that's illegal. And we have the right to assess the fine. If we catch them doing that, we can. In the meantime, the way the statutes are written, the property owner is responsible for the maintenance.
So then I can take all that trash and go 2 blocks down and dump it at somebody else's house and it's their responsibility?
Well, if you get caught, it's going to be your responsibility. It happens all the time. Yeah, it sure does. We have people who bring trash in from out in the country and just deposit it into trash bins inside the city limits. We've even had people who had a dump truck load of brush, brought it from the county into the city, dumped it on the city street, and drove away with the dump truck bed still up in the air as they're driving away. We weren't able to catch them, but it happens all the time.
All right. Well, over the past 3 years, I've been served a number of times from the post office box number. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not getting it to the post office box. If I would have had it cleaned up.
And I believe, based on the information that we have at our disposal, you have 2 addresses. One of them is the address on Lake and Heath, as well as a post office box. Both
Lake and Heath is my old mail address, and
but it's still on file.
It shouldn't be. I went to the auditor's office 3 years ago and changed it.
I can't help it, Tom. I'm just telling you, that's the information that we have available to us.
And I also have a copy from the auditor's office that says it's not on that address.
Okay. Again,
Here's a copy right here from the auditor's office. 107 Lake and Heath is not on that. It has anything to do with 2005 North Street.
Like I explained to you the other day when you
hold
were in my office.
on. We have a motion and a second to take this under advisement to give the city attorney a chance to review this. We'll do that based on his opinion. That will be the action that we take. We'll take it at some point in the future after he gives us his opinion. We can notify you in mail at the post office box and at 4747 Potawatomi. We'll notify you of the results and the findings. I have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? It passes on a 2-0 vote. Tom, please remain in contact with us. We want to work with you. We'll give you every opportunity in the future now that we know how to contact you when these issues pop up. But please feel free to take a lap down the alley and keep an eye on the property. Thank you very much. Under reports, Building Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I had submitted my report for your review. If you have any comments on that report, we can certainly discuss this. The report is relatively brief. We have 3 ongoing construction projects which are moving fairly smoothly. Code enforcement officer and myself are going through our rental property inspections on a weekly basis. And we listed the 2 properties that we have demolished this week at 920 West Miami, 514 Wheatland. We currently have 1 active project that's been approved, which is 1224 Smead Street. We'll be moving into that location sometime today or tomorrow morning.
1224 Spear?
1224.
Spear.
Spear.
Okay, I thought you said Smead.
No, I could have.
Let's make sure we're on the right street.
Yeah. And that really is the summary of my report.
Regarding 1224 Spear Street, did the property owner sign off?
Yes. Well, I mean, we had issued notice via the mail, certified mail, that was received and signed for. We also included the property in the public notice that we published in the newspaper as well. I have not had any personal contact with Mr. Dunn at all, but the last 10-day notice that we did send via mail was signed for and received.
Okay. The city attorney's on board with this?
Yes, we followed procedures based on what he has directed us to do with notifying certified mail at a minimum of 2 times, and then a public notice in the newspaper announcing the approval of the board.
Okay.
So he has been on board with that process.
I make the motion that we approve the building commissioner's report as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes on a vote of 2-0.
Okay, if I could, I just want to make a couple other comments. While we're going through what the process that we just concluded a moment ago, the board needs to be aware that we're going to see a tremendous amount of probably opposition and conflict from what we've been doing here and what we're going to continue to do as a department between the building department and code enforcement. As an example, we have ordinances on the books that, in our eyes, in our department, the eyes are to approve or improve the curb appeal in the city of Logansport. And there were many ordinances that were developed and put in place for that purpose, which seems to have been historically or over this period of time previously, over a number of years, either ignored or had become impossible to enforce. As an example, I would offer the ordinance of dumpster enclosures in our community, in the city. There's an ordinance 504.10, which was part of the city ordinance, and it has been for many, many years. This one came to me, I was awakened to the fact of its existence because I was challenged by a business owner who I had addressed the fact that the dumpster was not enclosed. And we had a lengthy discussion, and I was challenged by the business owner saying, 95% of the businesses in Logansport don't have it done. Why do I have to do it? And I said, no, you're not correct. That can't be correct. Well, I spent the next week doing a survey in the city, and they were absolutely correct. In the city currently right now, predominantly the enclosures on dumpsters or the correctness of following of the ordinance is being done by chain businesses. I mean, it's the Arby's, the Pizza Huts, the chain businesses are following this ordinance to the letter. But if you go to what I would consider local businesses, locally owned and operated businesses, 99.9% of those businesses fail the ordinance. They do not have it done. In the end of January, I sent out 45 notices to businesses in the community, just businesses, and just to alert them to the fact that the ordinance is on the books, something we're going to start enforcing in March. We gave them the month of February, the month of March, to get with the program. Out of those 45 notices, one business owner has completed and met the ordinance today. 1 out of 45. We are going to start next week enforcing this ordinance. We're going to start by issuing straight citations to every business that has a dumpster that does not meet the ordinance. I've had many calls from the 45 that I sent out, and the first thing I hear in most cases is, are we grandfathered in? And I'm sorry, in my position, I say absolutely not, in my opinion. But you are certainly welcome to come to the board every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, discuss the ordinance openly with the board, and have a discussion about it. But until that is done, the enclosures are required by ordinance.
Thanks.
And that really goes to, and it goes, I'm in the same boat. My son and I have a business, and we're in the process right now of installing an enclosure on our dumpster. Until I was challenged by the business owner here in town, it really did not impact me significantly because I didn't think about it. And I think likewise, the many things that what George is doing in the code enforcement and what we are doing in the building department is an awareness process. It's just, they weren't aware of it. Or, yeah, we knew about it, but they didn't make us, we did, that type of thing. But we have all of that going on, and we are looking deeply into the ordinance for the purpose of city beautification. And we're going to be relentless on this. So I would ask the board's patience to understand we are probably in the next month and a half or two going to have a lot of business owners and individuals who are going to challenge, why are you doing it? And the only thing that I would ask, and I would say this the same thing every time I talk to somebody about an infraction, it doesn't matter whether we're making you do it or not. Is it wrong? In this case, as an example this morning, the rubbish was there. It wasn't the fact that it had to be cleaned up or that it was wrong. The stipulation that was being argued was a legal stipulation. And I would ask the board to be patient with both our departments or acknowledge or maybe just impress somehow, how do we get people in the community to understand these rules are not to be a burden, that they're there to keep the city clean and neat. Because, and I will often use the phrase when somebody objects to it, as if it were next to your house and you drove home every day and pulled in next to it, or you opened your back door when you're having a cookout and you smelled it, would that not be offensive? If it's not in your sight, doesn't mean it's not important. So that I just as a part of sharing information, because I would anticipate that we are going to see.
What was the date of 504.1?
I'm not sure. I haven't found any revisions. I believe it was part of the original ordinance when it was crafted, but I mean, Mayor may have better knowledge about than I do. I've not been able to find if it was added at a later date or if it was part of the original ordinance. The way it's crafted, I'm led to believe it was part of the original ordinance that was created back, I believe, in 1980.
Property maintenance ordinance?
No, the dumpster, the refuse dumpster, 504.10. That's not part of the.
You think it was 1980?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, part of the original zoning ordinance.
Right.
I'll go along with that.
You know, and so, but just as a heads up.
I'll have to be honest with you, in 1980, I was 17 years old, and I definitely was not focused on city ordinance at the time. So I was also surprised to learn that there was a requirement. I thought there was a requirement for downtown, but I didn't realize that it was citywide. And I, too, found myself in the very same position that you're in being guilty of having a dumpster that's not enclosed. I've been waiting on the weather a little bit at my own business to break so that I can get it enclosed, and I will have that done as soon as I can get a contractor there or on my part-time job. But anyway, I certainly would expect us to be held to the same standard that we're trying to hold the others to. And I think everybody that's ever attended one of these meetings would agree that we have been very accommodating if we see progress, if we know somebody's intent, and then they show good faith effort in attempting to correct the violation, whatever that is. And so I appreciate your efforts and fully would expect some people to come in, but also I want to be at least flexible enough with them to, if they're showing improvement, that we'll, definitely work with them.
Absolutely.
And I ask you to work with me too for at least another 30 days or so until I can get an enclosure.
The clock is ticking.
Right. Thank you.
Did we approve his report yet? If there is no report, or no approval, I make a motion we approve his report.
I would second your motion to approve the building commissioner's report. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. It passes on a vote of 2-0. I think we did. I think that's the second time we approved it.
We approved it well.
Code enforcement officer.
Starting at the top, 712 Glenway Drive. That one has been cleared. 1320 Liberty Street has not been cleared. However, we have no record of service. So at this point, I'm going to assume that they have not signed for their paper yet.
Okay.
1218 Liberty Street, not been cleared, but no record of their service yet. So I'll follow up on both of those two. 1202 North Street has been cleared and is done. 1913 High Street, we'll come back to that one in just a minute if that's all right. 326 Wheatland Avenue, they did appear. Chris Pence was here. That, however, has been cleared and taken care of. So with that being said, if I believe that Mr. Kane is here from 1913 High Street. Mr. Kane, if you'll come up here, please. You guys should have a packet containing pictures, and I brought it down to you yesterday. Do you have it?
Yes.
I would like to add for the record that this has probably been the one property that I have gotten the most complaints on in the 15 months that I've been doing this job from multiple neighbors, and it is pretty bad. I haven't been past there since Friday. There was very little that had been done to it as of Friday. The problem with the neighbors, they're constantly complaining about rodents, rabbits, squirrels, a little bit of everything, hibernating in the winter there. They're also, well, we'll go from there, and I'll turn it over to the board for their pleasure to speak with Mr. King here. What's your first name, sir? Carl?
Carl.
Carl, will you state your name and your address, please?
Carl Dean Kane, 1913 High Street.
One other thing, if I can interject here, Mrs. Kane came in. If you look at the date on this, the original date, goes back quite some time. February 21st, Mrs. Kane, after receiving this letter, came in and asked for a couple extra weeks because she said she was having some personal as well as health problems. I agreed to give her a couple extra weeks. There was no movement on it. The only movement actually was there was a van that was parked beside the house that they did move, but other than that, as of Monday, I couldn't tell any difference.
Is there a file on this, George? Besides this one, is there a longer history?
While you talk with Mr. King, I can run over and take me about a minute to look.
Okay. Mr. Kane, thank you for being here. I said thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come before us. Do you understand the nature of the complaint?
None of the neighbors know, but now that they mention it about the rodents, I do have a rabbit's nest underneath my storage shed.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know anything about that. I do have a very active female possum that visit us almost nightly.
Uh-huh.
I have no control over them.
Uh-huh.
In fact, one night, my dogs attacked it, so-called, and it laid down. My wife thought it was dead. She picked it up with the tail. It was quite alive.
It was playing possum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She wouldn't go in the backyard, and then when I started barking at it.
Uh-huh.
But we've been doing quite a bit of cleaning. I admit we got sidetracked a little bit during that latter part of February there. My son in Columbus, Ohio, running a little bit of trouble, so we had to shut down on what we was doing and take care of a family problem. Hopefully that is satisfied now, and we've been working like mad at home until yesterday morning. Put my wife back in the hospital yesterday morning for, of all things, gout.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that.
She was over there all morning getting doctoration, and she's home, but walking very tenderly on that one foot. But we have cleaned up. The only tarps we have left in progress right now, we have a large tarp across our patio furniture on the patio.
Uh-huh.
We put that under last fall, late summer, when the roofers came in, a new metal roof on the house.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't want the shingles and everything down on the patio furniture, so we put a tarp there. Now it's still up. We intended to take it off today, but with her gout, in this meeting, we couldn't get to it yet. I got a small tarp over my motor scooter sitting in the backyard.
Uh-huh. Do you have sheds?
There's none in the shed, no.
Do you have a shed on your property?
There are 2 sheds on the property.
Two sheds on the
both
property?
full.
Okay, and they're full? What are they full of?
Yes, they are. I got one small tarp over my rototiller
Yeah?
and my lawnmower sitting out there.
What's in your sheds?
Bunch of stuff.
Okay.
In the past 5 years, I've lost mother-in-law, sister, and sister-in-law, and we inherited their furniture.
Uh-huh.
So we picked it up, more or less stored it. Got to get rid of it. I realize that.
Uh-huh.
We just haven't got around having a so-called yard sale with it.
Okay. It sounds like you have a heart of gold and you're taking in other people's problems, by taking in the furniture. Now you're being forced to store it, and it sounds like your own equipment, your scooters, are having to sit outside under a tarp in order to accommodate the needs of somebody else, and I certainly appreciate your generosity when it comes to that. But at some point in time, I think that the neighborhood and the neighbors actually have a right to beautify the neighborhood and to and possibly by being able to move your equipment from the backyard into the shed after you have this yard sale, it may help alleviate the problem with the possum and the rabbits or any other rodents that may be around there. And I think possums would be considered a rodent. And obviously, we want to make sure that we address that if there's a problem like that in the city limits. How long would it take you to get this property cleaned up if we gave you an
I
extension?
think the property's cleaned up right now.
Well, if you have equipment sitting outside under a tarp,
We've been outside, I think all last weekend and up to yesterday.
how much longer would it take you to get the property totally cleaned up? If we gave you another month to get it cleaned up, would that be enough?
Well, all depends on what they want done. If you mean all the tarps off and everything?
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably going to have to get your maybe you could contact an auctioneer and have an auction for some of that furniture that's in the sheds and maybe speed the process along. That might be your best way of doing it. It would definitely speed the process and help you avoid any fines that the city may have in case, in the event that we would have to go in and order a property cleanup.
Mr. King, is this trailer right here gone?
No, I say homemade trailer and,
So it and its contents are still there.
yeah,
Okay, what about the trailer that's over next to the side alley?
the black trailer
Yes.
is still there.
Okay.
I got two main trailers.
Yeah.
Your Honor, could I make a suggestion that
Yes,
I meet
please.
with Mr. Kane at his house sometime in the next couple of days and go over specifics, exactly what we expect of him, and give him another month to complete it?
I was just going to suggest and ask you, Mr. Kane, if you think you could have it cleaned up in a month, if you got aggressive with it. If we gave you
Yes,
one
all
month.
depends on what needs to be done. If I have to, I guess I can pull my trailers out there and take them out in the country to my son-in-law's and park them out there, but,
Yeah. Well, with you having said that, I think if we allow one more month for you to clean the property yourself, or maybe get some help from your son-in-law, give you a chance to, if you decide to have an auction, the auctioneer will come to your property and clean out the shed for you. They'll load it into their truck and take it away for you to have the auction.
okay.
And so maybe that's a possibility for you too. But I would propose that, or I will make the motion that we grant a 1-month extension on the property cleanup.
I'll second that.
At 1913 High Street, and I would also encourage you strongly to be in contact with the code enforcement officer as to the understanding of what's contained in the city ordinance, what's allowable outside and what's not allowable outside. And again, we're just trying to improve the curb appeal, and not only that, but the alley appeal as well, and to address some of the concerns of the neighbors about the rodents and things like that. So we have a motion and a second to grant a 1-month extension. Officer Franklin, if you would err on the side of caution and be liberal in the 1 month. So if it's 27 days, just go ahead and make it 34 days to get them here at the meeting after a 30-day period has expired.
This is the first Wednesday in April. You want to just make it the first Wednesday in May?
No, I want to make it the second Wednesday in May, which would be May 8th. That grants, that's being very generous in granting the 35 days instead of 28 days. In the event that there's any bad weather or anything like that that may come up. So we'll see you back here on May 8th unless you get it cleaned up to the satisfaction of the code enforcement officer. He'll notify us. If it's cleaned up, then we won't even require you to come back. We'll just go from there.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Kane, if you'll call my office sometime the next day or so and make arrangements, I'll meet you up there and we'll go over specifics.
We have a motion and a second to grant the extension 1913 High Street. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes on a vote of 2-0.
Okay, you have my report in front of you. It's been a very busy week. You can see what my numbers are. If you have any specific questions before you vote, I'll answer them.
Make the motion that we approve the code enforcement officer's report as presented. Been moved and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes on a vote of 2-0. Board of Works, I'm sorry, the Board of, the Superintendent of Public Works They cannot talk this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hopefully you have before you my report. If you have time to thumb through it, any questions, I'll be glad to address those questions. If not, I hope you approve it.
Looks good to me. I'd make a motion for the acceptance of the reports presented.
Again, this is one department that I never question. I know that you are committed and devoted to doing the absolute best job that you can, and very rarely are there even any questions. We have a motion. I will second the motion. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passed on, voted 2-0. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Chief Clark.
Morning.
Good morning.
I submitted my monthly report for the police department. Entertain any questions you have.
It's an average month.
The traffic warnings are up a little bit. We had a couple enforcement details, and but yeah, everything else is pretty much on average.
I noticed that. You gave a good report last week on the hiring process. Appreciate that. When did the 2 new candidates?
They started Monday at the Law Enforcement Academy.
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Good. Okay. I make the motion to accept the Chief of Police report as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes on, voted 2-0. Thank you. And Fire Chief Strong is not here. He doesn't get his numbers, his gasoline consumption numbers, until sometime later in the month, so it always puts him behind. So there is no report from Chief Strong. Are there any board member comments?
None.
Miscellaneous business, including matters not already considered? Hearing
Motion
none.
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.